Okay. So I am going to try to keep an eye out on the waiting room and make sure everybody's getting in. Well, this has been a great morning. Wasn't that so enjoyable? I loved it. Loved it. Loved it. I didn't know that I was going to enjoy it so much myself. So, the way this is going to kind of work is actually, what time am I supposed to go to? Let's find that out. Let's find it out. If you know, shout it out. They have this like Voxer thread going. Oh, till 1:15. Perfect. Okay. Um, so I feel like I'm just part of the team now on this Voxer thread. Okie dokie. So who is ready to talk more about? I feel like we've already talked a lot about this, but the who before how. Changing the things you can, which I know that is not new to you. For as long as you have been in, hey, Corey, as long as you have been in life mentoring school, it is not new that we can change the things we can, right? So, so here's the deal, y'all, as it relates to, you're so ready. I am really sorry. I am having to glance at this thing that tells me somebody wants in. So we'll just grin and bear it together for the next few minutes, okay? So here's the deal as it relates to changing the things that you can. And now that you've like gotten like on fire, you just heard all that amazing teaching and you're like, I am starting my calling right now. I'm motivated. And so you do just want to start right now, right? And I am always like, I'm an action taker. Well, I'm not an action taker right now on like working out. When I see Edie's stories, I'm like, that made me tired just watching. But I'm gonna work on it. Okay. So I'm here for action taking and I'm here for and teach messy, imperfect action taking. So I'm here for that because that's what we do and that's what we have to do as we step into our calling. Sometimes you just go for it, right? You're like, I'm gonna do this. You don't have it all figured out. Totally okay. I do love what Edie was sharing earlier this week. I mentioned it already about starting over. Like I said, as an Army brat, I was like always starting over. I was like, that whole Girl Scout thing, make new friends, keep the old, one's silver, the other's gold, and new town, new city. What's funny is my husband and I went on a little date last night and we were talking about how many places we had each lived, because I mentioned earlier, you may see on my Instagram profile, which by the way, like go hang out with me there. Do you have the link? I need to find it for you. But we were talking about how many places we had lived. We've just moved to this new town. And I was like, I will tell you this, like for however many years we've lived in different places, whether I was married or before I was married or whatnot, apartments in college, we were like counting them all. I was like, I have literally never felt home like this. So I don't know. I just thought I would share that with you. But so I love starting over also. And that's the best thing when you're stepping into your calling is really leaving behind all those ways of thinking that when you start over, you have been failing. Because like I said earlier, it's really just about figuring it out. And it has all led to now. And uh-oh. I should have like hired somebody to I used to have an assistant in this business, but I don't right now. But I should have paid somebody that like people in the room today. But it's all led to now, and it hasn't ever been a failure. It's always been learning. So like I said, I'm going to do a little teaching, I think, for about 10 or 15 minutes on a concept that I mentioned earlier. It's the who before how. And then I'm going to open it up for questions or for coaching, what we have time left for. Okay, so with all of that said, we actually can balance ourselves, if you will, and our brains when we do take this action. A lot of times when we are, not wanting to step into something God's calling us to, it's because we think, oh, it's going to be so exhausting. or it's going to be so hard. I've done it before and it was hard when I did it before. It's going to be hard again now. But I do want you to know that there is a different way. It's exactly what I've walked out the last year. It's exactly what I'm teaching. I think it's necessary for those of us who are doing what God's called us to do in a way that, like I said, even if you're scrapbooking, how do you create memories for your kids without yelling at them in the process, right? This is your best birthday party. Stop. Don't talk to me or touch me because I'm planning your birthday party. I mean, that's just what we do. We get so tunnel visioned and off balance that, and trust me, guilty. Okay. So I just want to share with you this who before how process that I use when I'm working on planning it. Wait, okay, let me go to this chat. I'm in charge now. I'm gonna read the chats. Okay. Ready to learn, ready, messy and perfect action, planning a birthday party at our house tomorrow. Perfect timing. I love it. Because it's get really curious about the thoughts we have, even when you're just planning a birthday party, right? Because your child doesn't actually, I mean, they're excited. They're not paying attention to the details. They're not paying attention to the cupcake toppers. I don't know. You may have a detailed daughter or something, but we're actually thinking, well, what are the grownups going to think and say? Are they going to think I did a good job? Right. So if you who yourself up, oh, this is going to be a celebration. This isn't the most important thing. Then when you actually go to take those actions in the birthday party, you just show up present and not beating yourself up or thinking of all the ways it's going wrong, right? So we can just incorporate all of this teaching into everything, all the areas we're called, each and every moment of the day. So this is what I use when I'm working on a big thing, and I'm actually working on several big things right now. I am launching a podcast January the 4th. I have to have everything in December the 5th. Okay, that's in a couple of weeks, which will include choosing the actual name of the podcast. And so I'm thinking it's going to be the Christian Life Coach Business Academy. Not sure, playing around with it. But it is definitely starting a big thing. Like I said earlier, this was a big thing for me today. I haven't spoken publicly in 20 years. So I was so excited that it was virtual, and I'm so excited that I now get to see your faces. So I didn't put it on the webinar view where you don't see your faces. So sorry, that wasn't what you were used to, but I want to see you. So anyway, and also because when I'm virtual, I can have my notes here because my brain has way too many children to memorize something I'm going to talk about if I want to be a little bit strategic and planned out. So anyway, so in addition to this podcast, as I mentioned, I'm sorry about having to do that. So a lot of times people say, well, what's a Christian life coach? Edie's a Christian life coach and she has the life mentoring school. She does events. I'm a Christian life coach. I am now working with women who are launching their coaching business. And, we have a ton of colleagues in our mastermind who, you want to hear the craziest coaching niche I think I've ever heard? She is a weight loss coach to quilters. I mean, can you be more specific? I was like, oh, well, you can do anything in the world these days. Just pick it. So anyway, whatever it is, I'm working with someone who is a wedding planner, but it's so much more than planning a wedding. It's actually coaching the bride to show up to the celebration for the marriage and not just the ceremony. So there's just so much. But anyway, I wanted to make that clear. I'm working on a 12-month group coaching program to help women start and scale their calling. For some, and I'm just telling you this because I want you to see what I'm doing when I'm working on a big thing too. Because just because I've had a very successful 3 years doesn't mean that I'm not going to have to go through the process and the journey of doing something again and stepping into who he's created me to be and to believe the truth, the big T truth and the little t truth, right? And constrain my mind to keep going and to believe in what he's calling me to do, believe in myself and the gifts and the talents that he's given me to carry it out as well. Okay, so that's what I also want you to know. That's why I'm sharing this specifically with you. And y'all said earlier that you like real life stories. So here you go. So as I'm working with these women who want to start and scale this calling, for some women, it looks like, just an extra $20,000 or $30,000 a year, $10,000 a year. They want to, you know, they want to be able to pay for soccer or gymnastics or preschool, just whatever it is. So some people, it might be 5,000, 10,000, 100,000. It doesn't matter. It's whatever God's called you to that is going to incorporate the time you want to invest in whatever you're building or not. And so I have been able to do this, like I said, peacefully and calmly over the last year. That my husband even commented, like, he was like, yeah, it's really true. I didn't pay him. And I mean, pay him to say that. I was like, legit, let me meet people. He was like, it's true. You did not sacrifice your family, because here's the thing that I want you to know when you're stepping into where God's calling you to be, right? We as women, we have this heart, we have this passion to serve others, to love others, to do what God's called us to do. And like, we're so excited about it. But what he will never call you to do, I think I'll say this again in a few minutes, just to make sure we have it, is he's not going to call you to give up your best life. And your best life, I mean, it's so like crazy people and they live in their best life. That's not what I'm talking about. Your best life, your success isn't dollars, isn't recognition, isn't, putting together, if you're, work in women's ministry, the most amazing women's event, and everybody saying, oh, thank you so much. It's not the affirmation of man. It's none of those things. It is who God has called you to be, to your number one top priorities, and how you're living your life in a way that's not completely sacrificing the ones you love most. It's not giving up your best life, which might literally be taking the time to just read a fiction book and not be so on the go and chaotic all the time. So don't give that up. Don't sacrifice that just to help someone else. Now, there are times, obviously, where God calls us to, suffering and serving in a way that is necessary to, leave the kids at home. We know all of that. We know that there are things like that for us at times, but I'm speaking long term. As you get excited about what God's calling you to, don't do it at the expense of your mental health, your emotional health, your family, any of those things, because we so easily do it, right? Our greatest strengths are our greatest weaknesses. We go, till we've burnt out, and then our husband's like, are we going to hang out at all this week? And you're like, I can't. Don't you see me serving everybody? Busy, right? So anyway, so when I sit down to work on an idea, to brainstorm something, to troubleshoot something in this new idea, maybe it's clear, maybe it's not, it might just be a potential idea. This is the process I use, and I want you to practice it as well, because what will happen, and you know this to be true, is that you're going to be super motivated and inspired after today. And you might spend the rest of your afternoon or this weekend just really processing everything and have a lot of motivation. And then what's going to happen? Doubt's going to hit. Fear is going to hit. And it is normal. I want you to expect, like when you're like, no, I can't do it. I don't have what it takes. He's not calling me to this. It's not going to work. I want you to be like, oh, that Amberly told me this was going to happen. So just notice that it's there. It's going to happen. And so when somebody says that's me, I'm telling you, it's all of us, right? It's not, when we talk about, when I was sharing earlier, that we think, oh, well, that big thing is just for her. She's always been that way. She was that way in high school. She was that way in college. She's always been successful. She's always done well. That's not for me, right? So then you're like, oh yeah, that's right. And so then you stop doing what God's called you to do. So just be like, oh, this is normal. This is normal. The more you start becoming aware of that, then the more power you have over that situation. It becomes it becomes less and less invasive as you start practicing, as you start noticing, as you're like, can't trick me now. I know this is a little tea truth you may want to write down is, obviously I struggled with anxiety. And so I don't struggle as much anymore, but from time to time, we will have things pop up, right? These old thought patterns, these old hurts, right? These old things that hold us back. That's meant for someone else, not me. So when you do recognize it, I kind of want you to like direct it before you do any sit down formal thought work about it, just to give yourself a mental place to go right then. pretend like you're driving down the road and you're like, here she comes. Shame's coming, right? That was me. So shame comes, and then you're just like, just get in the back seat, just buckle up. Like, don't let shame drive your car anymore, but she's coming. And all these years, shame has been with you, and she's been guiding and directing. Don't do this. You don't have what it takes. This is scary. And just be like, okay, I know you're here, but you're sitting in the back today, right? So anyway, and if she's buckled in, she's not going to bother you. So let me find where I was. Okay, because I don't know if Edie's talked much about this, but our brains like to keep us like safe and in that little cage, right? So let me see where I am. Okay, so like I said, I'm actually well trained in this. Okay, I'm well trained in this, and so that's why I want you to know how normal it is, and why. And now we are going to have a place to put these things. And so I know you love personal examples already, and when they're super vulnerable and transparent. So I'm going to kind of walk you through this for me, this who before how process. I'm actually going to get vulnerable and do drawing. We're going to do it together, like those people who like draw with me on YouTube. My kids watch those. I'm a terrible artist, so I don't know if that's like your calling, but it's not mine. So here we go. Here we go. Oh, well, that just lost my place of something else. Fabulous, fabulous. Okay. So this is let me see if I can get myself situated here. Like I said, I am in a temporary home and nothing is as it should be. Okay. So we have you can write it out. It's just the who before how. I used to teach kindergarten and first grade. Is it backwards to you? Okay. I used to teach kindergarten and first grade and second grade before I stayed home. And I'm like, I wonder how those kids are writing now. They are some of them already graduated from college. That's not old. But I'm like, I didn't think about that when I went into elementary education, because my handwriting is, as you see, I don't even know why I'm writing this out. I'm about to erase this. Okay. So who before how, changing the things you can. So I want you to picture you're this little stick person, and give yourself some hair. And then, oh gosh. All right. Well, that was pointless. Okay. So here you are, but I feel much happier about this situation now. Okay. And so this is you. Okay. This over here is also you. Bear with me. We're going to land it in a minute. You didn't actually grow taller. I just am a terrible artist. Okay. So here's you over here, and just write out to your little person, put me with big idea God's calling me to. All right. So me with big idea. And then over here, where I erased your height, this is me walking in big idea. Would you know, can y'all hear the landscape people? The blower, is that obnoxious? I'm so sorry. Is it loud? It's not loud? Perfect. Okay. So here you are. You've got me with big idea. It's actually the neighbors. Me walking in big idea. All right. So that's where we're starting. Oh, perfect. Okay. So what I want you to do, I should have asked Edie about this. Y'all do y'all do the model, the self-coaching model, where you do your circumstance, thought, feeling, action, result? Okay. So I'm obviously trained in that as well. But so this is kind of a little extension of that. I obviously didn't create it. I created this part, but I didn't create the actual CTFAR. You used to, now it's a circle. Perfect. So this is kind of like my little next version of that as well. When I'm kind of doing an overall big picture, when I'm getting ready to sit down and work on a big thing, because what happens is if you're not feeling inspired or motivated when you get ready to work on that big thing, All you can find evidence for is how terrible it is, how awful you feel, how it's not going to work, how you should have never thought about it, how all those things. So this is the process that helps you, because we take actions from the ways that we feel, and we feel the way we feel because of the thoughts that we think. So this is a way to shift that before you sit down to do troubleshooting or brainstorming of whatever it is that you're working on creating. Okay, so the way this is going to work is, let's do this. Okay. I actually was like, I should have like sent in like a cute PDF or something for y'all to be filling out, but I didn't. And also I'm really cold, so I have leggings on under my dress. Don't judge me. Sorry about this. Okay, so what you're gonna do is think about this way up here. You're not gonna do this today. I just am walking you through it. So you've got your person, you got you with your big idea, kind of before, right? This is who you are before you start howling over here. So what I want you to do is I want you to write down all of your thoughts, all the ones that are keeping you from taking action. I mean, you could go to 20 or 30. You're not going to do it right now. And then you're going to write, when you read those thoughts, I want you to list out all the ways those thoughts are causing you to feel, right? They're not going to be feeling good. I can tell you that. So you're going to write down all the feelings, right? So rather than doing one thought, one feeling, the actions and the result, we're doing all the thoughts that come up, all the feelings, and of course, all the actions. All right. So I'm going to pause there for just a second, find my place of my thing that fell. Oh, y'all, I'm sorry. Oh my word. I mean, while I'm looking, if you have like a question or if you want to say anything. Oh, you're sweet, Corey. Y'all, I hope I can find this. Like, look at this. This is like pages and pages of journaling where my example is to read to you. Oh, okay, I found it. All right, yay. All right, so when I was working on this, and I don't even know, I guess I was thinking about this group programming coaching that I'm doing because I'm booked out for one-on-ones. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna like make this available to a lot of people, etc. Sounds like your notebook. So as I'm thinking about this big thing God's calling me to, what it means I have to step away from, right? Like that's hard too, is here's some of the thoughts. I can't get all of this done. Everything is always a mess. I wish I could do it all better. I don't have the energy to do this and that. I just want to throw in the towel. I can't do it all the way I hoped. I'll never get there. If somebody needs in. I don't know how to communicate what I'm trying to communicate. It'll be too hard. I have no idea what I'm doing. No one wants this. Now, the emotions that came from those thoughts were anger, frustration, irritation, disappointment, feeling defeated, hopeless, sad, discouraged, unmotivated, doubtful, exhausted, confused, unsuccessful. Because here's what I want you to hear me say over and over is that doing this work, this thought work, being transformed by the renewing of our minds, stepping into who God has and hasn't called us to be, doesn't make this stuff go away. But what you do is now you have the tools, now you have the equipping, now you know how to boss it around, right? You just got, I call it like flossing your teeth. This is just like flossing your brain. Oh, I gotta get that out of there, right? It's there. You ate food. You lived a day on earth. You're a human. They're gonna be there. Okay, so that's what we have over here. Oh, and then the actions. The actions from these thoughts and feelings might be something like eating 3 snack bags of Cheetos on the couch. Or the actions might be eating 4 mini Twixes from your child's Halloween thing, right? What are the actions? Clearly the result is you don't do what God's called you to do, right? But the actions, you have a ton of actions. For me, I might like check email 100 times. or I might check, notifications on my phone. So we will do things, we will do other things rather than puts down the mini Twix. Mine are already gone. But we will do things or not do things based on how we think and feel. So what are all those actions that it might be for you in this list? Remember, you've got a long list. You've got all the thoughts, all the feelings. You're just being aware. You're just getting them out over here because God's calling you to something big. He's got a big idea for you. This was what you were created for. You're the only one who can do it. And that gets a little scary. So that's okay. Let's just figure out what we're scared about. Let's figure out what we're thinking and feeling. All right. So then what we do is we get all that out. Okay. I just showed you mine. Let me not lose my place again. All right. And then we decide to ask ourselves the question. Here's your big question. Are you ready? Well, what do I know? What evidence do I have? Okay. So then we kind of do the same thing over here. And like, look, this is not like all you perfectionists out there. You don't have to do the thoughts in the same order. Like you can start with like, ate 3 Cheeto bags on the couch. Why did I do that? So you can start wherever you want when you're doing this who before how process. So then you're like, okay, well, what evidence do I have? What do I know? What could be the opposite of all these thoughts? What else could possibly be true about what God's calling me to do? Okay, so then you'll start listing those thoughts and those feelings, and those actions. All right, so here's my same personal example, because look, when people don't give me personal examples, I might as well not learn anything. I'm like, but how did it happen in your life? That's what I need to know. Okay, so when you ask yourself, what do I know? Here are some thoughts you may come up with. Here's what I came up with. God has called me to this. He will equip me to be and do all he has equipped me to be and do. I will get there just like I always have, right? We have evidence that we've gotten there before. We're going to get there again. I get to decide. I can do this the hard and exhausting way, or I can do this the equipped and capable way. It's all with me. It's in my heart. It's in my mind. It's in my journals. It's on my computer. I have this. There are women waiting for me to help them reach their dreams, overcome their obstacles of self-doubt, self-rejection, and self-sabotage, just like I have. I will not fail. I will learn or figure it out. I have what it takes. God created me for this and this for me. The journey and the process will always be full of mountains and valleys. Nothing has gone wrong. I am still on my way. Like, don't you just already feel like relief from all that was over here? And so then, what are those emotions that now come up with these new thoughts, right? Well, I mean, we've got capable, we have equipped, we have called, we have sufficient, we have successful, we have determined, we have, I think I already said capable. I'm actually just coming up with it because I still don't have my place. Anyway, okay, so that's what we have. And then from there, we stop eating the Cheetos and the Twix and we say, okay, well, where can I start today? What can I do today? Right. So depending on whatever it is God's calling you to, you fulfill yourself with the energy or the motivation or the determination to just go ahead and start getting those things done. And so what does that result turn into? One more step into the person God has called and created you to be in what he has called and created you to do. So then you're over here. This is me walking in big idea, right? Now, in the middle of that, we have these little things. Okay. Here we go. I refer to these are like your ladder thoughts. I'm sure y'all are familiar with that concept, but I call them my deliberate thoughts. Because as you know, If you don't have deliberate thoughts, you've got default thoughts. And we know what those look like. We know how those feel. So you've got your deliberate thoughts. Now, when you have these thoughts over here, your how thoughts, right? Your who thoughts, your how thoughts. Actually, I don't even really know if that's what I would call them. I haven't gotten that far on that. I just do it, right? And that's okay. You can just do it too. But you have your who before how thoughts. So these are your kind of before who thoughts. These are your after who thoughts. And then this becomes your how, because the who and the how are still really related, but you can't how before you who. You've got a who before you how. And the crazy thing is those are all the same letters in who and how. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So then a concept I use, I don't actually know, Edie and I haven't ever talked about this, but I don't know what she teaches y'all, but I call them my renewed thought creation. So these new thoughts over here, the God has called me to this. This is kind of like what you have in the middle. So even though they're your renewed and transformed thoughts about yourself that you were having when you first sat down to write, I call them the renewed thought creation. So what I'll do is sometimes they are the same and sometimes they're worded a little bit differently. This isn't like a right or wrong. We're not perfectionists here. But I will remind myself of those things when I'm sitting down and working on this thing God's created me to do, right? I'll be like, okay, I'll have this junk over here. And I'm like, okay, now what is it that is also true? What evidence do I have? What do I know? And so what I'll do is I'll be like, okay, God has called me to this. He will equip me to do and be all he has equipped me to do and be. And then so then I kind of get to that place. And then I'm like, oh, okay, let me go and work on whatever it is he's calling me to work on. And so when you take action from this, you've got your before thoughts and feelings and results and actions. Then you've got like what it would look like when you're doing and being where God's called you to be. And so these, the renewed thought creation, that list of these thoughts over here, that's what's going to go. Somebody's coming in. Hold on. That's what's going to kind of go right here in the middle. It's going to kind of bridge the gap from who you are here to who you are over here. And these little ladder thoughts are actually every single one of these thoughts. You just practice them over and over and over until they replace the thoughts beforehand. And then you get new ones to work on. So spoiler alert, but y'all already knew that. So that is all the teaching. Sorry, that did take a little bit longer than I anticipated. So I am going to open this up for any questions, any comments. I know we only have about 10 minutes left, so I do apologize for that, but I'm always an Instagram message away. Let's see, you should have the ability to unmute yourself, or you should maybe be able to raise your hand. I don't know, just be like, get my attention. I'm gonna go into the chat. Oh my gosh, this is so funny. Okay, such life-giving message. Thank you. Fallen into the trap of the past. If I'm not seeing you, because I only can see a few people at a time, and you're like, I'm trying to say something, type it in this little chat. So glad it isn't me. Oh, Angela, you keep having this after being accepted to the certification. You have a few months to roller coaster the feelings. Just FYI, I actually started coaching before I got certified. And so that's actually what I tell a lot of my clients is go ahead and get started, right? I mean, you can say, oh, I would like to I'm doing a beta program. I'm about to work on my certification. Would anybody let me practice? I mean, maybe she's not telling you that. I don't know. But you don't have to have the website or the funnel or the freebie that you offer. Like, you can get started in what God's called you to do. Like, you have enough information and journey and story to help someone else. The certification just enhances that. It's another tool. It's more concepts to add to help your clients, but you can already start helping them. She may be like, Amberly, no. I don't know. I don't think she will. Oh, am I enough? Wrestling with that. Y'all are so great. Totally ready. Then start wondering, what will other people think of this path? Will I be taken seriously? Okay. So I have a thing that I say, that it's like, there are going to be some people, you'll be too much for some people. And there will be people that are like, who does she think she is? How does she think she's equipped to do this? Well, guess what? They're not your people. And their opinions are not worth the work that God's called you to do for the people who actually need you. Glad I'm helping with certification. Me too. I'm glad this is a blessing. My penmanship is beautiful. No, that was sweet. I know I want to see some of the stuff Edie teaches. We don't ever actually talk about the concepts. Flossing your brain. You have a bunch of clients for your academy right here. Hey, I tell you this, there is no one I would rather work with right now than y'all. Y'all are amazing. I'm glad this was concrete. Okay, so what process do you use to redo your thoughts? Is it meditation? For me, I'll be honest, when I started being coached with the model, you know, I had mentioned in the other session that I had done Celebrate Recovery, and that was really, really helpful for my overactive brain to figure out, oh, I can actually do something with these thoughts. So that was kind of my first step. But then when I got coached for the first time, I remember I came downstairs to my husband and I was like, oh my gosh, if I had had this like 20 years ago, it would have made the biggest difference. So for me, I know Edie does a lot of meditation. I haven't ever watched any of the things that she talks about it, but for me, this has always been enough. I probably the meditation component of like, oh, you know what? I take that back. I do have like a video or music that I have played before. It's not an everyday practice of mine, apart from just like reading scripture, praying, doing some self-coaching, thought dumps and things like that. It's always been enough for me, but I'm not opposed to like amping up my thought game soon. I'm glad these are helpful reminders. Can you chat a bit more about your program? You know what? If you, I won't do that here, but I'm actually hosting a masterclass soon, like this month. So if you, let me put my Instagram handle in this little thingamajig, this chat, just simply because there's not enough time. And you can actually go to, and I'll be talking about a lot over the next week or so. Here's my Instagram handle. And I'm doing like a masterclass to kind of talk about how I have done what I've done over the last year without abandoning my family, because I think that's the most important thing. Like, I don't want you like going, and I know Edie would agree, don't go like start coaching people and then leave your life behind, right? So it's very important to merge that well. My clients know, like, I don't work on Fridays, and I am not available. I have a 2-hour time block on Instagram. And so I just have things I set in place to help me stay present with my family. Okay, hang on. Test what you're learning on Friends. That's hysterical. Last week, my cousin, I was at a birthday party back in Georgia, and she was talking about, oh, like not asking her boss for a raise. I'm like, so why is that? You know, and I'm like secretly coaching her. And so she says, well, I was like, well, it sounds like you think you're not worth it. Because she was talking about how if she does resign, he'll pay somebody else like double what he's paying for her. And then she was like, oh, it's like, well, how does it make you feel when you think that? And she was like, I don't want to be coached right now. Okay. So it's true. We do practice on them. You need to figure out, Jody says you need to figure out what your big idea is. So yes, you do, but I mean, if you already have some ideas, start testing some of those and start stepping in some of that, right? You can even use the coaching model on all of those different ideas. Put those different ideas that you might have in your C line or whatever your circle thing is you do, I don't know, but put that there and then start seeing how could that be best for you? How could that be the best idea for the people you want to work with? So that's a starting point for that. It sounds so scary. It can be, but here's the beauty, especially all of y'all who are going into certification together. You get to be scared together. We are all scared together. You've transformed your mom with what you've learned so far. That is so cool. I know, like my one-on-one clients, I'm like, tell your husband that it's like a double whammy because it changes your parenting, it changes your marriage. You get to like walk your kids or a friend or whoever. One of my clients, she'll like coach her husband. He's like, yeah, we're really getting a good deal on this. How did I decide on my niche? Okay, this is a really cool question. Barb, is so like I said, I was kind of marketing to these almost like these bedridden, anxious, and depressed moms, like I was, right? Like, hey, let's get you out from under that. And then you'll be able to step into all these really cool things you don't even know are there when that's all freed up. But what was interesting, I looked at my data and I was like, all these moms are either owning their own business or working. I only had 2 stay-at-home moms. And so, and what's crazy is like, I love actually coaching on that. It's fun for me. I think it's helpful. Like I just actually hired a new coach yesterday. I start with her Tuesday because, you know, we need people, we need a coach to actually help us chisel things out. Like there's strategy, right? There's concepts, there's actual business stuff. And then there's the heart and mind behind it, especially those of us as Christians. And there's a difference. So then I was actually out in Cabo. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. This might be top secret info. Edie, mute it. But Edie and I were talking like we were just talking like there's not a great Christian certification program out there, life coaching certification. And she's like, I'm starting it. And I'm like, yes. Okay. And so then in my mind, we were out at this amazing mastermind. I was like, oh, if only Jesus was here. Now, Jesus was there, obviously, duh, but like in the actual coaching. Because here's the deal. When I work with people, I'm like, we will set that goal wherever you want it. And we're going to strive for it in a peaceful and calm way that doesn't abandon your biblical womanhood in your home. But if you don't meet that goal, that's because God has provided exactly what he wants you to have. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. You'll never make any more or any less than he has already prepared for you to have. And so there's just such comfort in doing business that way, right? And then take it a step further because I said to my husband a while back, I was like, okay, I'm getting scared. How much money is too much, right? And he was like, well, remember, like the more you make as a believer, the more generous you get to be in the kingdom of God. And I was like, yes, I am committed to rebuilding this Christian school my kids go to, and we're going to make it happen, right? So, and then all these people that are Christians with like money mindset issues, well, I just don't think as Christians we should have that much money. I'm like, well, you're actually the one that decides how much you actually give back. So that's actually on you. Like if you're so like holier than thou, then make as much money as you can and don't keep a penny of it, right? That's an option. So if God's equipped you with gifts and talents and skills that you can use, kind of like the story of the talents for his glory, use them. And if you don't want to keep it, don't keep it. Give it away. There's plenty of people that need it. Okay, guys, I think I'm supposed to stop. It's 1:15. Let's look. We're just having so much fun in here. Did they leave me all alone? Is nobody supervising me? I feel like this is dangerous. Okay, so we do end at 1:15, which is now. I'm so sorry. I think they'll be okay for a couple minutes late, don't you? It'd be like had technology issues. Okay. Walking in the big idea and not seeing results yet. Need new thought for this. Tips on how to persevere. Okay, Elisa, can you unmute yourself and tell me a little bit more about that? I'm going to tell the team I need a few more minutes. Oh, and if you're not dressed, that's okay, because guess what happened to me last week on our mastermind call? I mean, I'm not new at this. I've been using Zoom for a century, but for whatever reason, when you hide your video, it doesn't actually turn your video off. You just can't see it. So like if you decide to change clothes on the call, they will see you and you won't know. Just FYI. Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to try to hurry. I am happy to share more about that. I think if you use this process, Elisa, maybe Alyssa, if I'm saying it correctly, use this process for like 7 days in a row and see if that starts helping. Okay. Will you share during the certification some of the steps you took to launch your business? I actually don't know, because I don't know what I'm teaching Edie's certification, and I don't know that she's actually focusing on any business aspects from what I understand. I literally have no idea, but I have no idea what I'm teaching, honestly. So if she tells me to. Was Celebrate Recovery Through New Life. I don't know what that is, but Celebrate Recovery was actually started out at Saddleback Church, I think in Seattle. And so now just a ton of other churches use it. This is what my CFO says too. What was it? What does your CFO say? It does take money to finance the kingdom. Some people do have weird ideas. Oh, sorry, Elisa, I see it now. I'm an artist. I'm painting, not selling yet. Okay. Well, you got to get selling, right? You got to get to selling. You want to paint that picture I like? Yeah, so definitely, I would love to talk to you more about that. That's all up in my dram. I love it. Okay. Well, ladies, this was so fun. I'm kind of sad to say goodbye. So please go over to the Instagram and say hello. And then I will see y'all soon in the certification, which I guess is February. So maybe that's not real soon, but we will be there. And I'm always on the Instagram, not always, because hello, I'm strategic, but we can definitely chat there anytime. So it was so nice to meet y'all. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope you have a great, great weekend. Bye, ladies.